The modern home is a fortress of illusion. The illusion suggests that safety is permanent. The illusion suggests that food is always available. But listen closely. There is a sound in the kitchen. A low, constant hum. The refrigerator, the freezer. This machine is the heartbeat of the modern family. Now, imagine the silence. The power grid fails. The hum stops. The silence is not peaceful. The silence is a countdown. In the first 6 hours, the silence is annoying. By hour 12, the silence is concerning. The modern consumer opens the door. The cold air escapes. The condensation begins to form on the plastic shelving. The frozen bricks of ground beef begin to soften. The chicken breasts, wrapped in petrochemical film, begin to weep a pale, pink liquid. The temperature rises past 4 degrees Celsius. This is the danger zone. By hour 48, the modern kitchen smells of death. $300 of animal protein is now toxic waste. The modern family is helpless. The modern family is starving. The modern family has no skills to stop the rot. The modern family is entirely dependent on a copper wire connecting the house to a power plant hundreds of miles away. If the wire breaks, the survival plan breaks. Now, shift the vision. Travel back 800 years. The year is 1250. The location is a peasant cellar in rural Saxony. There is no electricity. There is no plastic. There is no hum of machinery. The air is damp and cool, but not freezing. Hanging from the heavy oak beams are legs of pork. These legs of pork are covered in a layer of white, fuzzy mold. To the modern eye, this looks like garbage. To the modern eye, this looks like poison. But the peasant knows better. The peasant takes a knife. The peasant slices into the meat. Inside, the flesh is not gray or rotting. The flesh is a deep, vibrant, ruby red. The smell is not of decay, but of earth, nuttiness, and concentrated savory intensity. This meat was slaughtered 18 months ago. This meat has survived 2 summers and 2 winters. This meat requires no electricity. This meat requires no technology. This meat will not spoil if the king dies or the castle falls. This meat is eternal. Why has the modern world lost this power? Why does the modern world believe that frozen is the only definition of fresh? The answer is not convenience. The answer is profit. The appliance industry created a dependency. The appliance industry convinced the population that biology is dirty. The appliance industry convinced the population that sterilization is health. This is the great lie of the 20th century. The refrigerator did not liberate the household. The refrigerator enslaved the household. The refrigerator tethered the food supply to the energy grid. By forgetting the ancient chemistry of curing, humanity traded independence for convenience. Humanity traded resilience for fragility. Consider the supermarket steak. The supermarket steak is bright red. The supermarket steak is soft. But this steak is chemically fragile. This steak is merely a paused biological explosion. The bacteria are waiting. The moment the temperature rises, the bacteria feast. The medieval ham is different. The medieval ham has fought a war and won. The medieval ham has been transformed by salt and smoke into a material that bacteria cannot touch. This video is not a cooking show. This video is an investigation into a lost science. This video will expose the physics of osmosis that the modern education system ignores. This video will demonstrate how wood smoke is not just a flavor profile, but a complex chemical weapon against decay. This video will prove that a bag of salt and a sharp knife are more valuable than a $5,000 smart fridge. Ask yourself a question right now. Look at the kitchen. If the electricity stops for 2 weeks, what happens? Does the food survive? Or does the food become a biological hazard? Most people are 3 days away from hunger. The medieval peasant was prepared for 3 years. Today, the investigation begins. The goal is to reclaim the knowledge of the larder. The goal is to understand the difference between rotting and curing. The goal is to stop being a consumer who buys cold air and start being a craftsman who commands biology. The industry wants the consumer to be afraid of bacteria. The industry wants the consumer to throw away food the moment the expiration date passes. This fear is a marketing strategy. The expiration date is a myth. The expiration date is a tool to drive consumption. The medieval mind did not fear time. The medieval mind mastered time. Prepare to look at the grocery store differently. Prepare to look at the salt shaker differently. The white crystals inside that shaker are not just seasoning. Those crystals are the most powerful preservative known to man. Those crystals are the reason civilization survived the Dark Ages. The journey into the science of rot begins now. The investigation moves to the modern supermarket. Walk down the aisle. Observe the rows of styrofoam trays. The meat inside glows with an unnatural, bright cherry red hue. The modern consumer believes this color signifies freshness. The modern consumer believes this animal was slaughtered yesterday. This is a fabrication. This color is a chemical trick. The industry uses a technique called modified atmosphere packaging. The plastic film is sealed tight. The air inside is pumped out and replaced with a mixture of gases, often including carbon monoxide. The carbon monoxide binds to the hemoglobin in the blood and the myoglobin in the muscle tissue. This reaction fixes the pigment in a permanent state of red. The meat could be gray, the meat could be old. But the gas makes the meat lie. The meat lies to the eye. Now, take that package home. Open the plastic. Touch the surface. The surface is wet. The surface is slimy. The modern industry sells water. Water is heavy. Water is profit. Modern industrial bacon is not cured. Modern industrial bacon is injected. Giant machines with hundreds of needles pierce the pork belly, pumping the tissue full of a brine solution containing water, sodium phosphate, and liquid smoke flavor. Put this modern bacon in a frying pan. Watch what happens. The pan does not sizzle with fat rendering. The pan boils. A white, foamy scum rises to the surface. This scum is the water that the consumer paid for, escaping the meat. The meat shrinks by 40%. The consumer has been swindled. The consumer bought water at the price of pork. This process is rapid curing. The industry demands speed. The industry cures a ham in 24 hours using tumblers and injections. Speed creates an inferior product. Speed creates a product that requires refrigeration, because the water is still there. And where there is water, there is life. And where there is life, there is rot. Travel back to the medieval smokehouse. The logic here is inverted. The medieval butcher does not want water. The medieval butcher declares war on water. This is the fundamental principle of survival physics. Water activity, denoted scientifically as A. Bacteria are aquatic organisms. Bacteria need a swimming pool to survive, to feed, and to reproduce. The water inside a cell of raw meat has a water activity level of 0.99. This is a perfect swimming pool for Salmonella, E. coli, and the deadly Clostridium botulinum. The goal of the medieval preservationist is not to kill the bacteria with heat. The goal is to drain the pool. The weapon is salt. Sodium chloride. The physics is osmosis. When the peasant rubs coarse sea salt onto the surface of a leg of pork, a violent microscopic event occurs. Nature seeks equilibrium. The salt concentration on the outside is high. The salt concentration on the inside is low. The laws of thermodynamics compel the salt to move in and the water to move out. The salt ions penetrate the muscle fibers. The salt ions bind to the water molecules. This binding renders the water unavailable to biological organisms. The water is still physically there, but the water is chemically locked. The water activity drops. When the level drops below 0.85, the bacteria cannot drink. The bacteria starve. The meat becomes a biological desert. But salt is only the first line of defense. The medieval master knows that air is also an enemy. Oxygen oxidizes fat. Oxygen turns fat rancid. To fight oxygen, The master uses smoke. The fire is lit. But this is not a roaring fire. This is a cold, smoldering fire. The wood used is oak, beech, or apple. The smoke rises. The smoke wraps around the hanging meat. This is not about flavor. Flavor is a side effect. This is chemical warfare. Wood smoke contains hundreds of complex compounds, phenols, acids, carbonyls, alcohol. As the smoke passes over the meat, the formaldehyde traces in the smoke react with the proteins on the surface of the meat. This reaction is called cross-linking. The surface of the meat hardens. The surface becomes a pellicle. This pellicle is a natural bioplastic. This pellicle seals the meat. Inside the smokehouse, the phenols act as an antioxidant. The phenols stop the fat from going rancid. The acidic components lower the pH on the surface, creating an acid barrier that hostile microbes cannot cross. The medieval peasant did not know the word phenol. The medieval peasant did not know the word pH. But the medieval peasant knew that meat hung in the smoke did not turn green. There is a danger, however, a deadly danger. The novice attempts to cure meat and fails. The novice creates a poison. The condition is called case hardening. If the humidity in the drying room is too low, the outside of the meat dries too fast. The surface turns into hard leather. This leather traps the moisture inside the center. The salt cannot penetrate deep enough. The center remains wet. The center remains warm. Inside that anaerobic wet center, the monster wakes up. Clostridium botulinum. The word botulism comes from the Latin word botulus, meaning sausage. This is the sausage poison. It has no smell. It has no taste. But a microscopic amount will shut down the nervous system and stop the lungs. The medieval cure master used a secret ingredient to fight this monster. Saltpeter, potassium nitrate, found crystallized on the walls of caves or extracted from compost heaps. The saltpeter turns into nitrite. The nitrite hunts the botulism bacteria. The nitrite keeps the meat pink. The nitrite is the difference between a delicious winter meal and a family funeral. The modern mind fears nitrates. The modern mind reads a blog post and gets scared of the word chemical. Yet, the modern mind eats vegetables loaded with natural nitrates. The medieval mind respected the chemical. The medieval mind understood that the dose makes the poison, but the lack of the dose makes the rot. So the leg of pork hangs. It hangs for 6 months. It hangs for a year. The weight drops. The water vanishes. The texture changes from soft, wet muscle to dense, waxy craftsmanship. This is not cooking. This is transformation. The meat is no longer a part of a dead animal. The meat is now prosciutto. The meat is now jamon. The meat is now speck. It is an artifact of survival. History is not just written in books. History is written in barrels. The skepticism of the modern mind is understandable. The modern mind has been trained to believe that meat spoils in 3 days. But the archaeological record screams a different truth. Consider the Mary Rose, the warship of King Henry VIII. The ship sank in the Solent in the year 1545. The ship sat on the bottom of the ocean for 400 years. When the hull was raised in 1982, the archaeologists found the provisions. The archaeologists found barrels. These barrels contained the bones of pork and beef. Analysis of the provisions revealed a staggering logistical fact. The English Navy did not run on fresh food. The English Navy ran on salt junk. The Naval Victualling Office calculated that a barrel of salted beef must last for 2 years of ocean voyage. Not 2 weeks, 2 years. The meat was so heavily cured that the cooks had to soak the cuts in fresh water for days just to make the flesh edible. But the flesh was safe. The flesh fueled the sailors who built the British Empire. Science confirms the wisdom of the barrel. Studies from the Norwegian Institute of Food, Fisheries, and Aquaculture Research analyzed the protein structure of long-cured muscle. The findings are counterintuitive. while freezing damages the cell walls through the formation of ice crystals, leading to drip loss and nutrient drain upon thawing. Curing retains the protein integrity. The process is called proteolysis. Over months of curing, the enzymes within the meat break down the proteins into amino acids. This is why a vintage dry-cured ham has white crystals crunching inside the meat. Those crystals are not salt. Those crystals are tyrosine. Tyrosine is an amino acid. Tyrosine is a sign of flavor development that a freezer can never achieve. The freezer preserves the structure of the animal. The cure elevates the structure into high-density nutrition. The evidence is irrefutable. The Viking longships crossed the Atlantic without coolers. The Roman legions marched across Europe without ice trucks. The Mongol Golden Horde rode across the steppes with saddlebags full of dried meat. If these civilizations survived without electricity, the modern fear of expiration dates is a psychological weakness. Now, the investigation moves from the library to the workbench. The theory must become practice. The consumer must become a producer. The entry point is whole muscle curing. Do not start with salami. Salami is ground meat. Ground meat introduces bacteria into the center of the product. Salami is dangerous for the novice. Start with a whole muscle, a pork loin, a duck breast, a leg of lamb. The inside of a whole muscle is sterile. The bacteria are only on the surface. Step 1. The acquisition. Go to the butcher. Do not buy the prepackaged meat injected with water. Ask for a green weight cut. This means raw, unpumped meat. Weigh the meat. Record the weight in a notebook. Step 2. The salt box. The method is brutal simplicity. Find a plastic container or a wooden box. Pour a bed of coarse, non-iodized sea salt. Iodine gives a metallic taste. Use pure salt. Lay the meat on the salt bed. Bury the meat completely in more salt. Every inch of surface area must be covered. Step 3. The extraction. Place the box in a cool place. The refrigerator is acceptable for the modern beginner to simulate the medieval cellar. Leave the meat. The formula is 1 day per 2 pounds of meat. Check the box after 24 hours. The salt will be wet. The salt is pulling the water out. The salt is winning the war. Step 4. The equalization. Remove the meat. Rinse off the excess salt with wine or vinegar. The meat will feel firm. The meat will feel tight. Wrap the meat in cheesecloth. The cheesecloth keeps the flies away but lets the moisture escape. Step 5. The hang. Find a place with airflow. Temperature, 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. Humidity, 60 to 70%. This is the cellar window. If the air is too dry, the meat case hardens. If the air is too wet, the mold turns black. White mold is good. Green mold is acceptable. Black mold is death. Hang the meat until the weight drops by 35%. Use the notebook. If the starting weight was 1,000 grams, the target weight is 650 grams. When the scale hits the target, the meat is safe. The water activity is low enough. The meat is now shelf-stable at room temperature. Analyze the economics. A quality refrigerator costs $2,000. The electricity costs $20 a month. The machine depreciates every day. The machine will break in 10 years. Now calculate the cure. 10 kilograms of high-quality sea salt costs $10. A curing box costs nothing. The energy cost is zero. The shelf life is indefinite. The investment is minimal. The return on investment is caloric security. The modern consumer buys insurance policies for the car and the house. But the modern consumer has no insurance for the stomach. The pantry is the ultimate insurance policy. A freezer full of meat is a liability during a blackout. A pantry full of cured ham is an asset that appreciates in value. The investigation concludes not with a technique, but with a philosophy. The modern world looks back at the medieval era with pity. The modern world sees dirt, disease, and darkness. The modern world uses the word medieval as an insult. This is the arrogance of the present. This is the blindness of the comfortable. The medieval peasant was not a primitive fool stumbling in the mud. The medieval peasant was a master of applied physics. The medieval peasant was a chemist without a laboratory. The medieval peasant understood the fundamental laws of nature better than the modern software engineer. The peasant knew that nature is trying to kill the food supply. The peasant knew that entropy is the enemy. And the peasant won that war every single winter. The modern human has outsourced this war. The modern human pays the electric company to fight entropy. The modern human pays the supermarket to manage biology. This outsourcing feels like freedom. But this outsourcing is actually a leash. The moment the system hiccups, the modern human is helpless. The modern human panics when the grocery store shelves are empty for one day. The modern human has forgotten how to be human. True independence is not having a lot of money. True independence is having the skills to sustain life without the grid. A freezer full of meat is not wealth. A freezer full of meat is a ticking time bomb. A cellar full of cured ham, dried sausages, and fermented vegetables is wealth. This wealth does not depreciate. This wealth does not require a monthly subscription fee. This wealth is absolute. The knowledge of curing is not just about food. The knowledge of curing is about patience. The modern world is addicted to instant gratification. The modern world wants the steak now. The modern world wants the bacon in 5 minutes. The cure requires time. The cure requires waiting 6 months for the perfect flavor. This waiting builds character. This waiting teaches respect for the animal. This waiting connects the craftsman to the rhythm of the seasons. Do not let this video be just another piece of digital entertainment. Do not just watch this investigation and nod in agreement. Action is required. The algorithm wants the viewer to scroll to the next video. The algorithm wants the viewer to remain a passive consumer. Defy the algorithm. Turn off the screen. Go to the kitchen. Look at the salt. Look at the meat. Realize the potential lying dormant on the counter. Buy the pork loin. Buy the salt. Commit to the process. The first attempt might be imperfect. The first attempt might be salty. But the first attempt is a step towards reclaiming lost heritage. Become a craftsman. Become a producer. Build a larder that creates security for the family. When the lights go out and the neighbors are eating cold canned beans in the dark, the craftsman will slice into a leg of prosciutto that has been hanging for a year. The craftsman will taste the salt, the smoke, and the victory. The past is not dead. The past is waiting to be rediscovered. The skills of the medieval survivalist are the ultimate hedge against the fragility of the future. Start the cure today.